So we're reading today about the borderland. And we're going to try to ease on into this with a few explanations so that when we get to the real powerful parts, the pieces you already have a good sense of before we get into them. So there's this plan. It's a plan of God that the Holy Spirit holds in your mind. You are now entrusted with this plan. To reach it, there is a bridge between the plan of God and the plans that you made for yourself. It's a meeting place, a transition zone in your perspective of reality. We call this transition zone the borderland between worlds. In this session, we will consider the invitation for you to visit the borderland. Hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. I'm your host, Jonica, and our reader for this session is David S. Before we get into our reading, I want to introduce a few terms that might make the reading easier. One, there's a borderland that exists in your mind. It's a borderland of thought that stands between your understanding of this world and heaven. That on the other side of that is the real world. Think of it as a gift where the Holy Spirit allows you to perceive a heavenly reality. It shows you a world seen through different eyes, through quiet eyes, with a mind at peace and at rest. How do we get there? We get there by learning. One of the major components is learning. We wind up developing goals. The Holy Spirit has developed goals for us to learn. And that is to recognize the difference between wishing for heaven and the wish for hell. You would think that would be an easy distinction to make, wouldn't you? You would think. Also, in order to help with that distinction, salvation is only given for those who need it. For those who are already in perfect peace, salvation isn't needed. So the gift of salvation is for a troubled mind. So we take that as a starting point. And but not a staying point. So there's a transition from a fearful outlook on life to a forgiving, rightful perception. This learning teaches us how to make that transition. Think of it as a bridge. It's nothing more than a change in your understanding of reality, although that's really a big deal. You change in understanding of reality from viewing the world through a chaotic lens to one that is serene and peaceful. And finally, we'll get to this in this session. We'll get to all these terms in this session. There's the last judgment, which is not to be feared, but to be welcomed. It's the last time your mind, everyone will experience the last judgment for themselves. The last judgment the Holy Spirit teaches is the last time you will ever evaluate and judge anything in this world. For in other words, freedom from judgment lies on the other side of the last judgment. And your final judgment will be that my illusions are not the truth. So with that as an introduction, we'll get into our reading.
Complexity is not of God. How could it be when all he knows is one? He knows of one creation, one reality, one truth, and but one Son. Nothing conflicts with oneness. How then could there be complexity in him? What is there to decide? For it is conflict that makes choice possible. The truth is simple. It is one without an opposite. And how could strife enter in its simple presence and bring complexity where oneness is? The truth makes no decisions, for there is nothing to decide between. And only if there were could choosing be a necessary step in the advance toward oneness. What is everything leaves room for nothing else. Yet is this magnitude beyond the scope of this curriculum, nor is it necessary we dwell on anything that cannot be immediately grasped.
So there's a couple ideas here, one about opposites and the other about oneness. And David, one of the things that you and I had mentioned before, to advance towards a perfect oneness where everything is completely integrated and certainty of knowledge permeates all things. This is beyond learning and beyond forgiveness. That is a magnitude, it's wonderful magnitude, beyond what can be taught. So it's beyond the scope of this curriculum. We point towards it, and the teaching leads towards it, but the experience of it can't be taught, so it's beyond a curriculum. Nor when we are having fundamental difficulties, like distinguishing what makes me peaceful from what leaves me in conflict, nor do we need to dwell on an eternal oneness when the moment is not even being experienced peacefully. Said in other words, there's more immediate work to be done to heal the mind and bring the mind to a state of peace. And the Course says once we've done that, the rest will take care of itself. So that's very reassuring. So our work is in the domain of confusion, where it seems as though there's a lot of complexity and with a lot of conflicts and opposites going on. We know that that is not the characteristic of eternal reality, but that sure is the way it appears in the illusory world. And when we give our faith and power to the illusory world, all that chaos and conflict becomes internalized in our own thinking and believing, thus destabilizing our mental state through chaos and conflict that originated in the world itself. So, what can we say here? Is we're in a temporary state of learning to navigate out of chaos and into peace. Beyond that is a world of oneness, which we are destined to attain. But first, we must meet the conditions for oneness, which is to experience inner peace, what we would call stability, serenity, tranquility, for this is the condition of oneness. And so all this is preparation. And this course is about that journey, is entirely concerned with the journey of helping each and every person who's willing to transition from chaos to peace.
There is a borderland of thought that stands between this world and heaven. It is not a place, and when you reach it, is apart from time. Here is the meeting place where thoughts are brought together, where conflicting values meet, and all illusions are laid down beside the truth, where they are judged to be untrue. This borderland is just beyond the gate of heaven. Here is every thought made pure and wholly simple. Here is sin denied, and everything that is received instead. This is the journey's end. We have referred to it as the real world.
Mm-hmm. So, David, this is the end of this curriculum, is the attainment of that state. It's not the end of life, or it's really not an end. It just means that as far as this curriculum goes, that's as far as it teaches. And that's enough, because this state, this place, is just aside from the gate of heaven. On the other side of that is perfect knowledge and oneness. And so to be brought to that place is enough. The rest is in God's hands. So the borderland of thought is very attractive. First of all, it's abstract. It's not a place, and it doesn't exist in a time. So you can't physically relocate to there. It's an inward journey to the kingdom of heaven within. It's a place where you are invited to bring your illusions. Okay, so first of all, the notion some might have is, well, first I have to purify and perfect my mind in order to experience this borderland. Well, that's not what the Course teaches. You are invited to bring your conflicting thoughts. This is a place where conflicting values meet, and all illusions are laid down beside the truth. So you are asked to bring all that, not for the purposes of retaining your illusions, but for the purposes of laying them down, relinquishing them, letting them go. So first of all, you're welcome today. You need not, there's nothing you can do that would make you more qualified for that place. But you do need to learn how to navigate to this place. We'll speak about that more as we go on. And then when you get there, there is a purification and simplification process, which the Holy Spirit will do. This is the natural result of you having laid down all your conflicting thoughts and all your illusions. When you lay all your illusions down, this is described in the Course as total forgiveness, total willingness to be transformed. Then there naturally is a response by Spirit, which brings about a transformation of the mind in preparation for what's ahead. You can think of it as a final purification and a simplification. For oneness does not have the thousands of fragmented thoughts that chaos induces. Oneness is very easy to be with. It everything, one set of principles, one truth, one plan, one will, one miracle, one sun, govern all of them. And so it's simple. And we need to, and our mind will be transformed in preparation for introduction into that oneness. So, in summary, at the end of this journey, there is this meeting place, this borderland where transformation occurs, where forgiveness is complete, where learning comes to an end. And we refer to that as the real world. And we're not talking about an experience in your distant future. We're talking about an experience that is calling to you each and every day. So it's near at hand. The kingdom of heaven is near at hand, not far away. And this course is intended, excuse me, to help save time in getting there. I'll let David read. Simon, you had your hand up. You muted, brother. You muted.
More better now.
Mhm.
You mentioned one son, and that's something I kind of had
Mhm.
toyed, an idea I had been toying with, as we're all just one son. I mean, as it sounds.
Mhm.
That's the intent and meaning, I guess.
Yeah, I had that trouble too, Simon. It's perfectly, it's an unusual use of language for our world,
Okay.
and it conveys the idea of oneness and the idea of sonship, in that there's a father creator and we are an offspring son,
Okay.
and that sonship is a many-membered body
Okay. But
that
it's one
exists.
body.
Well, okay, body, wrong word. Let's see. That was
No, I kind of think of it as like the roots of a tree. There's like
yes,
however many you want, but they're
yes,
all branch into one
yes.
trunk, I guess, for
Perfect,
lack of a
perfect,
better word.
perfect. That's what it is. So the many members united into one sonship. The branches or the roots of a tree, or same metaphor I use.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
same source. All have the same source.
Okay.
All are united together in a common purpose. Yeah. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
got that.
This is the journey's end. We have referred to it as the real world. And yet there is a contradiction here, in that the words imply a limited reality, a partial truth, a segment of the universe made true. This is because knowledge makes no attack upon perception. They are brought together, and only one continues past the gate where oneness is. Salvation is a borderland where place and time and choice have meaning still. And yet it can be seen that they are temporary, out of place, and every choice has been already made.
Mhm. So, David, this is where I think I find the course to be brilliant, because while we're all walking around in our present forms and the assumptions that we have about time and space and individuals, those things seem to have meaning, where place and time and choice have meaning still. And if we're to relate to people in any kind of form that they could accept, we operate within that framework. And yet at the same time, we understand that that is not forever, that that is a temporary condition that is that has a beginning and it has an end. And so it's paradoxical. It says there's a contradiction here in that the words imply a limited reality and a partial truth. And so that's what we think of as this time-space journey of moving from a perception of chaos to a perception of truth. It's still within a limited framework or a limited container. The difference being when we start on one end of this container, judgment, fear, guilt, self-abasement, even anger, hatred, and murder prevail. On the other end of this journey of perception, we lay down those ego-laden traits and allow spirit to replace them with divine attributes. And then when we arrive at those gates of heaven, at that state of salvation, then we are ready to transition gently and seamlessly into a state of perfect oneness. And so there's a relative state. Christoph and I have been talking about the difference between a relative reality and an absolute reality. So while we operate in this time-space, a set of assumptions, we are operating in a relative reality. It seems to be very true to many people, and yet we are taught that it is not the truth, that in fact it is only a temporary stage that we pass through, and then time comes to an end. And so this is, a lot of people get tricked up here. But I think that it's not a whole lot different than recognizing when you start out in the first grade and you're headed to the 12th grade, you're in a state of transitions. You're not going to be there forever. This is a learning journey, a learning process. And when you complete that program, then you transition into a new chapter of your life. Well, time and space is a learning program. And when you complete that program, you transition into the next chapter, which we call eternity. It's the fact that it's spread out over such a long period of time and encompasses so much space is just an attribute of that journey. Still, I think the analogy, unless somebody can suggest a better one, in which there may be, this analogy of a learning journey is just as true in the big picture as it is in the little picture. So, one more thing. This, by the way, this is the advanced teachings of the course. So it's if these things escape you in the fuller meaning, I get it. It's understood, but you don't have to receive it all in this very moment. Here's the idea is that you, when you're ready, you voluntarily move forward into this borderland zone where the laws of the world of revenge are laid aside and the laws of forgiveness are adopted in their stead. That as you move along this journey and get towards the gates of heaven, there's a merging and a blending of this real world happiness that you will experience. There's a merging and a blending of that with the experience of the knowledge of oneness. It says here that they're brought together. There's this quasi zone where you transition from one to the other. It's said that only God knows when you're ready for that final step. It's your final step, and God will be the one who will know when you're ready. Let me pause because all this is as heavy calories as it gets. And I don't want to, it's not my intent to go through it fast, but if there's no hands, we'll move on.
Nothing the Son of God believes can be destroyed. But what is truth to him must be brought to the last comparison that he will ever make, the last evaluation that will be possible, the final judgment upon this world. It is the judgment of the truth upon illusion, of knowledge on perception. It has no meaning and does not exist. This is not your decision. It is but a simple statement of a simple fact. But in this world, there are no simple facts, because what is the same and what is different remain unclear. The one essential thing to make a choice at all is this distinction. And herein lies the difference between the worlds. In this one, choice is made impossible. In the real world is choosing simplified.
Mm-hmm. So there are about 4 messages here. And it's my inclination to consider each one of them. So first of all, it's a review of the concept of the final judgment, the last judgment, which is introduced in chapter 2 of the textbook. So this was already covered early on. It is not the judge. Okay, in Orthodox teachings, it was the judgment of God against you, where he lists out all your infractions and finds you to be an imperfect being, and you might have to suffer as a result. That would be the Orthodox fearful teaching. It's reinterpreted by Holy Spirit to represent that experience where you yourself reach the point where you're done with judging anymore. You have reached that higher level where you're ready to let go of the prerogative to judge others and to judge yourself. This is true freedom. So the last comparison you'll ever make, the last evaluation, and it's a simple judgment. It's just that all those illusions mean nothing. The final judgment is just that. All those illusions for which I have given my mind and attention and faith to for a great many years, all that means nothing. A friend of mine used to always said that those things meant everything in the world to me until I got to that point that day where they meant nothing at all to me. And so it's the ultimate letting go. And there's all these songs, let it all go, let it all go, let it all go. And so the last judgment truly does mark the final emptying of your investments and illusions and your belief that you need judgment to exist. Until then, prior to that, it seems like we constantly have to make discriminations and evaluation. It would seem perception teaches us that we should evaluate things and compare them and contrast them and create what's more valuable and what's less valuable. And the whole process of cherry picking what we would prefer based on no universal standard, but just really based on our individual inclinations. And as a result of those judgments, each one of us views the world in our own unique way. Christoph, we were talking about this. Each person lives in their own world because their judgment of the situation in which they are in is unique to them. So herein lies the difference between the worlds. In the world of time and complexity, there are millions of judgments to be made, and choosing amongst so much complexity really becomes impossible. It's overwhelmingly complex. Whereas in the real world, where we look upon everything with forgiveness and no need to evaluate and compare and establish hierarchies, in the real world, it's simplified. And this is part of what brings tranquility and serenity. The burden of judgment has been surrendered, and now you can just ease on into living without having to carry the weight needed to constantly be judging the world around you. Comments on that? One more comment framework here. The entire Course of Miracles from A to Z can be seen as existing in 3 different stages. For every living being, these stages exist and this sequence exists. It starts out, we're going to just jump right in and start with the ego state as the starting point, although there's more to the story than that, but we'll start there. It starts with false perception, and then under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, that becomes a world of difference, is transformed into true perception, which leads to the final judgment, tranquility and peace. It prepares you for the third and ultimate stage, which is a transition into heaven, into knowledge, into oneness. The entire Course of Miracles, everything said in the Course of Miracles is in reference to one of those stages, and you have to learn which stage is it referring to. If you don't ask yourself this question, to which stage is it referring to, that you become confused and think that something that is true, that seems to be true in the world of illusions might be true somewhere else, or you might think that some universal truth in heaven is fully understood in the mind of true perception. So this distinction is a really important one. Kathy, you had your hand up.
So this borderland, and it says it's just beyond the gate of heaven. So all of this, you said, is possible here while we are in our bodies on earth, right? Even though we're not magnifying the body at all. We're looking within. The kingdom of heaven is within.
Jesus already attained that state while he was in a physical body, and so there's proof, the only proof.
And he's telling us about it here, right?
And he's inviting us to join in that experience. And not only inviting us, but assisting in every way possible for us to learn to open our hearts and minds to receiving that experience.
Yeah, and so this is the purification, and it can be here. That's just amazing to me. I've always thought that it would happen after I passed,
well,
but it can be now.
It can be now, but you're correct in your observation that a great many people go to their grave without having already attained that state. Okay, I mean, that's not a shock to anybody, but the possibilities are not based on where you are or what form you're in or what time you're in or place you're in. It depends more on one's devotion and willingness to forgive.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Noelle?
Sometimes for a few seconds, I feel like I'm tiptoeing over the border to the borderland, but I don't maintain it. You know, the world of illusions rushes in again. And I'd like to know and practice how to sustain being in that place more.
Thank you, Noelle. Yes, the holy instant is an instant of experience, like you said, might not last very long. So we call that a state of instant. It's a gift. It's transformative. It's heaven sent. It does not obey the laws of time and space, and miracles emerge out of that state. So this is a foretaste of what later on will become a permanent state, but you get to foretaste it in advance. And really this is actually related to Kathy's question in many ways, because Kathy, most of us in this form will at best experience more and more holy instants, and perhaps experience them every day, but not hours at a time. That would require mastery. Truly, that would be a master of this. So Noelle, yes, holy instants are gifts that are emerge out of this state whenever we join completely with another soul. And share the words in the course are share a common purpose with another person.
I found too, I have those moments when I really forgive someone for a perceived slight, and also when I see that person as whole and as one, as Simon was saying earlier.
Yes. Yeah, as a matter of fact, so we should thank you, Noelle, for keeping the focus on this. Because it's not spoken about so much in the reading we're doing tonight, but it is in other places. And really, my hope and prayer and expectation would be that each of you over time will experience this on a daily basis. Not for an hour at a time necessarily, because it takes a lot of mind training to sustain that. But especially during the time which you devote, that you carve and set aside, where your plan is to be fully present to all that Spirit has to offer you, and you are willing to let your own stuff go and not remain in the way, that these experiences would happen with some frequency. Not rarely 3 times a year, but with some frequency. And what a gift. What a profound gift. We read in the previous section about expecting to be born anew every day. So I'll be explicit. I expect each of us to be born anew every day. And so that would be at least one holy instant every day. And if you are willing and set aside time for it, it greatly increases your opportunities to experience it. Greatly increases it. We'll go on.
Salvation stops just short of heaven, for only perception needs salvation. Heaven was never lost, and so cannot be saved. Yet who can make a choice between the wish for heaven and the wish for hell unless he recognizes that they are not the same? This difference is the learning goal this course has set. It will not go beyond this aim. Its only purpose is to teach what is the same and what is different, leaving room to make the only choice that can be made. There is no basis for a choice in this complex and overcomplicated world, for no one understands what is the same and seems to choose where no choice really is. The real world is the area of choice made real, not in the outcome, but in the perception of alternatives for choice. That there is choice is an illusion. Yet within this one lies the undoing of every illusion, not accepting this.
Mm-hmm. I put a little cloud symbol there because I think for me this is the apex of this material that we're reading in this session. To understand it is to understand. To not understand it is to remain not yet understood. So I want to make sure this is talked about in a number of places in the course, not only here, but in other places. You can think of it as and label it as the same different spectrum. And it's really very simple to understand. And there's a logic to it. All illusions are the same illusions. They're all mistaken perceptions. Even though the form of illusions is millions of different forms, they are all illusions, therefore they are all the same. Now we go over the truth side. All truth is the same. There are many different words that can be used to express it, but all truth is one. It's all the same. But what's different? Truth is not an illusion. and an illusion is not the truth. They're different. So that distinction, I know this seems so elementary at one level, learning to recognize the difference between an illusion and the truth, David, is the one goal of this course. It's the purpose and function of the Holy Spirit to teach your mind and mine to be able to distinguish an illusion as an illusion and the truth as a truth. How else can you find your way home unless you can tell the difference between an illusion and the truth? This is so fundamental. And so it is literal that the learning goal of this course, its only purpose is to teach you what is the same and what is different. This is not just idle words. It's reinforced again and again that your ability to use with your mind and no longer be confused by illusions and to recognize the truth, everything hinges on that fundamental distinction. Susie?
You know, I think the Course says that peace and understanding come together and they're never found alone. So the ego wants to constantly try to understand the situation and what happened, and this happened because I'm this way, or when I was a kid, blah, blah, blah. But if I choose peace, which I'm not saying I can do, and it's not easy and whatever, but if I choose to choose peace or heaven instead of hell, or, you know, the Holy Spirit instead of my ego, my perspective will change. And I will not even have to figure it out and understand what happened, because it's all an illusion anyway. It's just getting me to, you know, not be pulled, and just choose peace. And then the illusion, you know, the situation changes. Then, so yeah, that's it. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. So there's one level deeper here, but I know I've gotten confused with the next level, and it's only my intent to be helpful here. So if this creates confusion, then just let it go. But at the end of the journey, when we reach this borderland, you're going to have the ability to look back at all the illusions you've ever made and let them go. At that point, they have no value to you. They mean nothing. And so it's not a sacrifice like, oh my goodness, this is everything I've always wanted. Instead, it's like, what was I doing carrying all these illusions? And so what it says here in the last two lines is there was never really a choice. That there's a choice is an illusion, because the choice was between everything, the infinity of creation, and a false notion of some kind of alternative reality of the ego. That's not a choice. That's simply insanity versus insanity. That's not a real choice. And so we would say there really, this is not, for this reason, it's not hard. It's not difficult. The difficult is the word I want to use, to let go of illusions, because there was really nothing there worthwhile anyway, however we thought it was. But from the perspective of the borderland, this will all be clear that all the things that we had made on our own pale in comparison to what's been created. So being able to make this distinction between illusions and the truth will serve you not only on your journey today, but will also be the final skill that you use when before you make the final judgment of letting go of all those illusions. Yeah, so this cannot always be understood until some experience comes your way, and then it's like, no, that's what it meant. Okay, got it. Thank you. So don't stress over it intellectually, but allow it to exist in your mind without rejecting it, and know that the Holy Spirit works with what you've accepted into your mind to stitch it together with other ideas that the laws of creation that she teaches. She'll do that if you but accept it into your mind without discarding it. Kathy?
I feel like the solution is the oneness, and being in the oneness. And when I go, it's easy to do it when I'm at home, but I know when I go into the world, those are lessons for me. So I'm thinking that I need to start praying internally as I'm, like, before I meet someone's walking toward me, I say some kind of prayer to see the Christ in them, or something like that, quietly within my own mind. I feel like I need to go like another step in the direction of the oneness more consciously, because perception is from consciousness. So, and then, so I feel like that, and that's kind of like what's in the next paragraph, the special function. So seeing the Holy Spirit, the Christ in each person, something like that. I need to develop a spiritual practice around this. That's what I feel like I'm hearing here.
We like this. We like it. Yes, Kathy, the words that sometimes are used to describe what you're saying, you're spot on. Might be said in the New Testament as pray continuously. But in the context of what you were saying, I'm about to encounter this person who's a unique being that I don't know everything that's going on in their life. Let me be aware myself. It's also in the Course of Miracles, the first duty of a miracle worker is to accept salvation for themselves. This is the refreshing the awareness and the memory of your function here. But the words that I really have always resonated with are continuous conscious contact with cosmic reality, with eternal purpose. So the masters experience unchallengeable contact with eternal reality continuously, without a master is able to not be interrupted in that contact. So our goal would be to practice towards that, of maintaining continual prayer, continual contact, so that you don't forget. Okay. Well, Susie, you had your hand up.
No, I just to piggyback on Kathy, I wanted to say that it's just as important for me, whatever, for all of us, but I'll just speak for myself, to remember that wherever I'm going, even if it's to be with friends or to go help somebody, that or just to You know, after you asked that question yesterday, I was gonna, but we were getting off, and I was gonna say that it just reminds me of I'm never going to a place, you know, for what I think I'm going for. And that's really what I wanted to say. You know, my special function is just to always be open to give love and be a miracle worker, you know, and whatever situation, whether it be the market, you know, if someone's asking for help, like just any of that. So, yeah, I just have to remember to always
Yes.
be love and yeah,
Yeah.
with strangers and with all people near and far.
Yes. That is what brings miracle workers into the world. So remember, the slogan for the Great Crusade is ready, willing, and able. Our part, we're willing, but not always ready. So ready means to be in a miracle ready state of mind. Kathy, this is, you can view it in terms of the lens of prayer, conscious contact, awareness, to be ready, miracle ready. For it is our part to play, to be ready and willing, and then Christ will play his part when we play our part. So Kathy referred to this last paragraph, which is also quite powerful.
Is not this like your special function, where the separation is undone by change of purpose in what once was specialness and now is union? All illusions are but one. And in the recognition this is so, lies the ability to give up all attempts to choose between them and to make them different. How simple is the choice between two things so clearly unalike? There is no conflict here. No sacrifice is possible in the relinquishment of an illusion recognized as such. Where all reality has been withdrawn from what was never true, can it be hard to give it up and choose what must be true?
Mm-hmm. So just to give some context to what they're talking about, let's remember that we've invested significant attention into our idols, into our illusions, into our hierarchy of values, into our self-concepts, and into our judgments of the world. There's some significant mental energy that has gone that way. And the recognition, the ability to give up all attempts to choose between them and make one illusion worth keeping and another discardable, that whole process of analysis leads to picking, I think of it like picking through the trash, looking for something of value. It's picking through illusions and then finding one that you elevate above all the rest. So the Course says, from this perspective where you've learned the difference, this assumes that you've been taught to distinguish the truth from illusion. And when you have, the choice is simple because they are so clearly unalike. And that results in no sense of conflict, no sense of loss, no sacrifice in relinquishing our illusions. But have to admit that in the ego entrenched state, none of this seems at all true. Just the opposite seems to be the case. And so this is the purpose for learning to distinguish one from the other. I guess we should mention your special function here because it's mentioned here at the end. And the aspect of it I want to emphasize is every encounter to the Holy Spirit is a holy encounter, as an opportunity for union. And so your special function used to be in ego view, separation but is now changed into a function of experiencing union, not only between yourself and creator, but between yourself and the person in your immediate presence. So the unique role that each of us has to play with the people that have been brought into our lives. And no one can fulfill the shoes, maybe that's not the right word. No one can fulfill the role like you can. You have a special function of contributing to the people in your lives in the way that you can contribute using the experience and words and ability to relate to others that you have. No one can replace that. It's your special function. And if you devote it to the Holy Spirit's plan, she will empower you with her gifts of insight and vision, such that you, in those moments when there's like a window of the soul opens in the other person that you're with, the whatever you need to say in that moment that would be most helpful will be given to you by the Holy Spirit. For whether two or more are gathered, Spirit is present. So ultimately, I want to bring this full circle, because Noel talked about the holy instant, where you have an instant of going there in the transition. This program is exactly a program of you going to the borderland, you going to the zone where at some level in your inner world, you are willing to let it all go, all your illusions, and turn them over to spirit. And whatever happens there is between you and spirit. And that's beautiful. And then, having had that experience, you eventually emerge from that and go about your day and encounter others and carry this message with you, this message of peace, this call of hope, this words of forgiveness, the ability to look one another with charity, the ability to see through eyes that are kind another person, regardless of how they see themselves. That's what is your special function. So anyway, we are finished reading about the borderland for the moment, but we're not finished. Meaning your relationship to the borderland is underway. It may have already been underway, but it's certainly underway now. It's a gift from spirit, a call from heaven to enter in to a transitional zone where you can let go of the shell, the outer shell that this world conditions, and be authentic with spirit. And I'll receive from spirit whatever gifts you're able to receive in that place. So what you do with the knowledge of this borderland is now in your hands. It's your choice. I strongly encourage you to organize your life so that you carve out some time when at whatever point in your day, so that you can be fully present and invite and welcome this experience into your life, where you can be certain that the gates of heaven, there's a song on the other side that is calling to each one of us. That's as far as we're going to read tonight. It's the next step in a journey. David, thank you for reading, especially on short notice. I think that we have here a unique opportunity to receive gifts that people have been receiving this gift for centuries of time, but maybe not as frequently or with as much ease as it is possible to receive it here. I think this is a privileged time to be alive, that these gifts are so easily distributed. So, and I know that I feel honored to share with you on this journey, to walk side by side with you on this path. And so I do honor the divinity within you. Namaste.
Namaste, everybody. Thank you, Jonica.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Namaste,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you,
Bye,
John.
everyone.
Monica, thank you, David. Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Simon, good seeing you.
Good seeing you
Bye.
too. Bye, guys.